Oh, hello. You caught me while I was watching Cowboys film. Well, I suppose let's just get into the overview. Of course, before we get started, I'm gonna give you a little fit check. Got my Chain Gang 54 John Cena jersey on. And you'll probably first off notice, because I literally said it in the last episode, there's no Cowboys related things up there. I swear I had a Rico Dowdle jersey, not of the Cowboys, but of the Panthers, that I got at Marshall's. I can't find that, so there will not be a Cowboys jersey up in this video, and that will happen for a few videos. I won't lie. So yeah. All right, so we're gonna start with the Cowboys offense. You know, the highlight of their team last year. I'll start off by saying this is one of the best offenses in the league. So we're looking at it. Dak Prescott QB1. Dak Prescott will always be a good quarterback. Well, at least for the near future, if he plays like he has been. I will say it seems like I've been watching film all day, by the way. That's what I've been doing. It also does seem like Dak Prescott, towards around a little later than middle of the year, does slow down. He always starts off the year hot, but it does slow down normally. Or it's the opposite way around. He's slow and then heats up. But then, obviously, you have Joe Milton behind him and Sam Howell, which is a offseason addition. We'll get into that later. But Joe Milton is a pretty good backup quarterback. He's promising. I know he hasn't shown much. Last year in the Cowboys game that he played in, he wasn't great, but he's a backup for a reason. I mean, his arm strength and leg talent, it really does intrigue me. I hope we don't get to see him play because that would mean Dak Prescott's probably hurt. But maybe some garbage time with him. I'd love to see him play. And then, looking at the running back room, I'm not a fan of this running back room. First off, Javonte Williams. I am a Javonte Williams truther. Again, he started really good last year. He did slow down towards the end of the year. But I do think he will have another good season as long as he can stay healthy because he's running behind a very good O-line. Last year, he showed that he can be a good running back when he's healthy. But then behind him, you got Malik Davis, Jadon Blue, and Phil Maffa. Very underwhelming. I still think Jadon Blue could have a good year and could be a good backup, but I'm not too impressed by that. But then the heavy hitters that really make Dak Prescott surefire to have a good season, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, and Ryan Flanoy are your starters for wide receiver. And then we go into the depth. Cavante Turpin, MVS, and Jonathan Mingo. And then a bunch of others. I'm just going to go with the top 6 as of right now as the projected starters. And that's just a really good wide receiving core. I mean, that's one of the best wide receiving duos in the league with Lamb and Pickens. And for my money, that is the best receiving duo in the league. And then Ryan Flanoy, he showed last year he can be reliable to a 3, sorry. He was a 4 last year, but he showed he can be reliable. But CeeDee Lamb, as long as he can clean up those drops, I know he's had drops since he came into the league. I had to explain this to a few people this year. I mean, looking at his film, yeah, he does drop quite a bit of passes he should. Looking back at week 1 versus the Eagles, he lost in that game with those drops. The Eagles' defense was gassed. CeeDee Lamb was getting open on him, and he just could not hang onto the ball. And as long as he can stay healthy, maybe clean up a few drops, he is a definitive top 5 wide receiver in the league. But then you look at George Pickens, who last year he was a top 5 receiver in the league. I won't lie, I was very critical of that move for the Cowboys. I didn't think George Pickens was that good. I mean, that was kind of a general consensus. I thought he was a very overrated player. But he completely proved me wrong last year. He was the best receiver on the Cowboys last year. He was a top 5 receiver in the league. And as long as he can keep his head on, because there were a few games where he would get taken out of the game because he'd get angry or frustrated. And yeah, that happened. That did happen quite a bit towards the end of the season, kind of. But as long as he can stay locked in on the season, and it doesn't seem like he's worried about his contract, he might be. I know he was upset at first about it, but he said he isn't anymore. We'll see. I think this is the best receiving duo in the league. And then what makes it even better is you have a reliable tight end. Jake Ferguson is a good tight end. He's not really noticed by the general media per se, but he is a very good tight end that is reliable. And throughout the year last year, he was one of the best tight ends. Now, I will say the tight end depth, It's nothing special. But when you have a good tight end one and a great receiving duo with a good running back, I mean, there's not much more you can ask for weapons. And then looking at the O-line, wow, the Tylers are really good. Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, Tyler Booker, Terrence Steele, and Cooper Beebe. Beebe. This is a young group of guys, but they are a good group of guys. I know Cooper Beebe was a little underwhelming last year, but I still think he can be a good starting center in the league. Obviously, Tyler Booker was great last year. I know people like to hate on him and Tyler Smith, but they were both really good guards last year. The tackle work, looking at the film, could have been cleaned up a little bit, but it was still really good. This is a phenomenal offense. And with this offense, they're contenders in most games. We'll get into their schedule later, but now let's move into the defense. Looking at the Cowboys' 3-4 defense, it's a lot better than what it was at the beginning of last year. So we're going to start with how they have it listed. We're going to start with their lefty end. Quinnen Williams. He's a dog. He is a dog. That's just one of the best D tackles in the league. And they got him. I liked that trade for them. I like the trade for the Jets as well. I thought that was a win-win trade. Just Quinnen Williams really anchored that defense. Once he got there, they were a lot better against the run. And then looking at your nose tackle, I'm sorry, I'm going to say this wrong, but Tito Ogbenyana? I'm sorry, I said that name wrong. But I don't know a lot about him, so I won't comment too much on it. But I'm intrigued by him. I mean, I would like to see what he can do. And then Kenny Clark at right the end. That's underwhelming. These again, I'm going off projected starters. This could very well change. Yeah. He wasn't great last year. There's no sugarcoating it. And when he also did get hurt though, so I'll give him that. I don't think he'll have a bounce back year. I think that trade was awful. They gave up an elite guy getting the quarterback for Kenny Clark. And we'll move on because I'm not trying to hate on him. If he has a bounce back year, that's great. I'd love to be proven wrong. Looking at the weak side linebacker now, Rashawn Gary. I like it, honestly. I like this linebacking core. I'm actually going to go over the entire linebacking core. The Marvin Overshone needs to stay healthy. D. Winters, I can't wait to talk about that in free agency because I really do like that. And then Donovan Ezraku. I think this linebacking core is a great linebacking core, honestly. Not great, but it's really dang good. I mean, it can't get worse than it was last year. Bringing in guys like D. Winters and Rashawn Gary, two good moves. Marvin Overshone, if he can stay healthy, he will be a phenomenal linebacker. I mean, he's shown it. He's shown flashes that he can be this good linebacker if he's healthy. Donovan Ezraku going into year 2. I was high on him in the draft last year. I know he kind of had an underwhelming season. But again, this whole defense did. And then looking at the secondary is where I'm really worried. We're going to start with the corners. So looking at the two outside corners, two projected starters, Deron Bland and Kobe Durant. Now, let's be honest. Deron Bland is not good at covering. He has really good ball skills, or well, I guess he used to. He hasn't really shown that in the past 2 years. And he has not been great in coverage. He hasn't been good in coverage. So I do really worry about that. They have him listed as the right corner. That's not who I would want as my right side corner. I'd actually want Kobe Durant over him. And yeah, Kobe Durant did struggle last year, but he was a good corner for the Rams. So, I mean, I think it's a step up from Trayvon Diggs last year and all the corners they had, but it's still not great. And then you look at their safeties. We'll get to the big one in a second. But look at that. Their safeties, Jalen Thompson and Malik Hooker. I don't like that. It's not. Everyone knows they aren't going to be a threatening safety duo. I mean, I really do like their defense. I think it's much better than it was last year. But then looking at this, their secondary is rough. But then nickelback, Caleb Downs, and we will get to him in a second. And then special teams. I don't normally talk about special teams. I didn't for the Eagles, and I kind of glossed over it with the Giants, but he got one of the best kickers in the league, Brandon Aubrey. I mean, I can't wait to see Brandon Aubrey this year. I do think he struggled last year a little bit, looking back at some film. But, I mean, with his distance, you're always in it, and I love that. I love kickers like that. So I mean, with that offense, with this kicker, you're always going to be putting up points. I think it really does depend on the secondary. I think the secondary will be the make or break of this team, and if the linebackers can stay healthy, I will say the getting to the quarterback I think will be rough this year. But I mean, again, this linebacking core is really good. You have decent players at your D line. This could be a really good year for them. So now we're going to move into the free agency moves. I took off my Cena jersey. It was way too hot in here. So we're going to look at the free agent signings. Jalen Thompson, I mean, in case you don't know, safety, I mean, I don't think he's worse than last year. I'm not really high on the signing, but I will say your defensive coordinator, Christian Parkinson, over the past few years with Philly, he really did transform that secondary. So I will give them a little credit there. And then Kobe Durant, boom, attacked secondary back to back. Kobe Durant, I already gave my opinion on him. Should have waited till now. That was in the defensive section. Now, Sam Williams, it's just depth. And you know what? I think it's a good depth signing. Now, again, excuse me, Otito Ogbonyana. Again, I don't know a ton about him. He is only on a 1-year deal, and it's only max of $3 million. So he's obviously not, going to be that guy. But last year he did have 14 sacks, half a sack, and only 9 games. That's not awful. I don't know. I'm excited to see him. I'm not going to hate on it now because I am really excited to see it. Then we go look at PJ Locke, safety. This is just for depth. I mean, same with the next one, Sam Howell at QB. And then again, Matt Hasney O-line. Deron Kendrick, I would say this is for depth, which it is, but honestly, him coming over with the Rams, he already has that connection with Kobe Durant. I could see him, depending on how Deron Bland plays, maybe weaseling in a few starts. And then Jonathan Bullard. I actually like this. I like this. I like that they brought him in at D-tackle. It's not a flashy deal, but, I mean, I think he's in his 10th or 11th season. I mean, he's a good veteran depth. And, he's not going to be a starter because you have Williams and Clark, but this is just a good backup guy to have. And, he knows how to play in the NFL. He's stuck around, so, I mean, overall, free agency for them wasn't much, but we will get into one of my favorite parts of any team's offseason with their draft coming. Okay, as now we look at their draft, let me tell you, this is one of my favorite drafts of the entire NFL. Now, at pick 111, trade up with Miami, just one place, for Caleb Downs. Now, why Miami traded out of Caleb Downs, I have no clue. But for my money, the best player in this draft. That's my personal opinion. He was my top prospect. And seeing him fall to pick 11, which, good value for a safety at 11, seeing Dallas jump at that opportunity was actually a really good move. I know he gets a lot of hate, but Jerry Jones really made the most with that trade. And I don't know why Miami didn't select him. And then later in the first round, at pick 23, you move back with Philly, because Philly went up and got Mekhi Lemon. You get Malachi Lawrence, and I love that pick. I know not everybody was super high on Malachi Lawrence, but I mean, I do think he will eventually end up starting. I know he's not the projected starter yet, as I went over earlier. I do think he will be starting. And then, again, I'm sorry for the name, but out of Michigan with a trade with San Francisco, you get Jay Sean Barman in the 3rd round. They did not have a 2nd-round pick. They traded it, obviously. And another good young edge that I do think will develop. I don't think he'll be a starter this year at all, but I do think he can develop into a starter. And then in the 4th round, they get 3 picks here. And I do like these picks. I like all of them, actually. Drew Shelton, tackle. Really good depth. I like that. I really like that pick. And then Devin Moore, which was Atlanta's pick to Philly to Dallas, came over with the Malachi Lawrence trade, and so did their next pick. I really like that pick. If you don't know, Devin Moore is a corner, and obviously they need corner help. And again, I think if they develop him right with Christian Parker, who is a why did I call him Parkinson? Christian Parker, who again, the past few years has shown to be a very good DB coach, as what he was in Philadelphia. So I do think he can develop and potentially be a starter on this team. And if not, I do see him being a good backup. I really like that pick. And then again, another depth signing, LT Overton, an edge. First off, their biggest need, they attacked all their biggest needs. Safety, edge 3 times, corner, no tackle, kind of just backup. But I like all this. I don't think LT Overton will be a starter at all. But again, very good depth. And then in the 7th round, you get Anthony Smith. Probably won't play a ton. Just, depth pick. I mean, if he does play, I hope he plays good, but just probably a depth pick. Now, part of this team, right, this segment right here is the complete opposite from the Giants. The coaching staff. Brian Schottenheimer. I won't lie, I was very, very critical of this signing last year's head coach from Jerry Jones. He blew me out of the water. There was no way you can blame last season on him. He was a really good coach last year for this team. And Clayton Adams, listen, no matter who is at the head of this defense, I think offense will be a good offense. Maybe besides like Kevin Tulo or Matt Nagy, but like looking at this, I really do like that. And then the biggest one, my favorite defensive coordinator signing of the entire offseason, Christian Parker. He was a dog in Philadelphia. He really helped develop Quinyon Mitchell, Drew Makuba, Cooper DeJean, brought back Slay after that really rough year. I mean, I really like this coaching staff, and it's a dangerous one. Now, looking at this schedule, I mean, it's a doozy, but first off, week 1 and 2, back-to-back big games, Giants and Commanders. I'll say this. Either of those games could go either way, but I do think I have Dallas starting 2-0. But then, of course, they go on to face a very difficult stretch of teams. You have the Ravens, that is in Brazil. The Texans, the Bucks, who if they can get back to what they were before the middle of the season last year, they'll be a dangerous team. Green Bay and Philadelphia. That is a rough 5-stretch game. And I could see them dropping 3 and winning 2. But then you get a little bit of an easier break with Arizona Cardinals, Colts, 49ers, and Titans. Now, I think they win 3 of those games. I don't see them losing to Carolina. I don't see them losing to Tennessee. Maybe you could make an argument that the Colts offense is just too much. I do think San Francisco will beat them this year. Now, this is rough. 2 games. So first off, one's a Thursday night game. The next game after the Titans game is Thursday night Eagles, and then Monday night Super Bowl champion Seahawks, and then their bye week. That is rough. That's a late bye week. 2 very good opponents before that. I think they drop both those games. The Eagles game, that's coming off of a short week after playing a tough schedule and a little bit easier, but you still haven't had your bye week. And then Seahawks, it's the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks are just a much better team. And then coming out of the bye week, does not get much better. You got the Rams, the Jaguars, the Giants, and the Commanders. Now, the Jaguars and Giants are at home. I mean, preferably week 18, you'll have your starter sitting if you're in playoff contention, maybe, if you've locked playoffs. I think they do go 1-3 or 2-2. I don't see them beating the Rams, and I think the Jaguars is a toss-up, but I also think the Giants is a toss-up. I do have them sweeping the Commanders. So, I mean, their schedule's pretty hard. Not as bad as the Giants, but this is a rough schedule. Now, I'm going to be optimistic with this team. I think their floor this year is 8-9. And I know you're like optimistic, but that's pretty good for this schedule. But I also think their ceiling is 12-5. I know that's quite a big difference, but there are a lot of toss-up games in here. But if the defense can just improve a little bit, they win a lot more games than they did last year. They do have a very tough schedule, especially at that 5-game stretch at the beginning of the season and the last 6 games they play with their bye week wedged in between. This is a rough schedule, but I'm very optimistic for this team. But I will say, I have them finishing 10-7. We'll see if that is good enough to have them make playoffs. But right now, they are sitting at second in their division in my predictions, because I predicted the Eagles 12-5, which is high. I know. Maybe that's a little bit of bias. Maybe. I'm trying not to be biased about it. I do think the Eagles have the easiest schedule in this division, which is crazy because they won it last year. So I have Eagles at 1 right now, at 12-5, Cowboys at 10-7 at 2, and the Giants, I believe I said 7-10. I might have to go fact check that. I gotta write this down, at 3 right now. So the next video in the series will be the Commanders, and then we will be moving over to the Miami Dolphins. They will be the next video after the Commanders. The Commanders video will come out a little later than these typically come out, though. So, I mean, just take care. Much love. Do something positive today. Love you all.